Hi, I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Mac with 9 Before, and with the podcast, I'm here with Blair, and we want to wade in on this conversation about should parents ask their child that's in nappies, diapers, about changing the diaper. Should you ask permission or consent before doing that?
Jane, you think that parents should ask their children's consent when they are babies to change their nappy? Babies communicate all the time.
I guess we'll walk as we go here. We have two people in our home who are in nappies. And the last thing that they ever want you to do is change it. I mean, they could be the foulest little creatures on earth, and they still get upset if you change their nappies. So,
but then they also scream if you don't change their nappy. So, how much should I really consent? Is that them giving consent because they're now crying about their nappy being dirty?
Is the crying consent? Or is, yeah, that's it. So I think we're putting a lot of pressure on, well, 3-month-olds.
Yes, to understand why are they crying right now. Because maybe they're hungry too.
But then there's also, in the role of a parent, there's a certain amount of parenting that puts you in a space where if anyone else is doing it, not a controlled professional, not a child care minder, then yes, you're outside of the realm of consent.
Right.
But as a parent, you're obligated to do it. If you don't do these things for these squirmy little creatures, they have no means of doing it for themselves.
Right.
So they wouldn't be taken care of.
Right, and that would be seen as neglectful.
Then Child Protective Services are going to come, because what if your child doesn't consent? You ask, hey, can I change your nappy? And they give you the baby version of a no. Yeah, scrunched up face. And they're like, no. Or if your child is a little older and they can communicate, and they can say no, because it's one of the first words they learn, right?
Right.
No. And they say no. And you don't change the diaper. You leave it. You don't do it. You ask them again, they say no. I mean, I can't see, I guess on one side I can see where the expert who made this comment is saying you teach your children about informed consent. However, think about it like this. As a parent, you have a child who's messed up a nappy. And I'm going to go back and forth between nappies and diapers, guys. I'm back and forth between the US and the UK, so it's going to happen. They've messed up a nappy. And you're sitting there and you ask them, do they want to have that nappy changed? And they indicate no. And you change the nappy anyway because you have to.
Right.
Isn't that sending the exact wrong message? That now you're teaching your child that their consent doesn't matter. I'm still going to do what needs to be done. So you're setting them up potentially to have the wrong thought about the whole process. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, yes. I think if you're trying to teach your child informed consent, then maybe you should use something more variable, like food. We're having this for dinner. You can have either this, this, or this. You can eat either this, or this. Then it gives you an option. But your nappy being changed, that's really necessary. And if I don't do it, you're going to be soiled, you're going to be dirty, that can lead to infection. That can be neglectful on my part if I just ignore it.
So changing the nappies it's a sacred event. It has to happen. You can't just not change a nappy. So it's probably not best to build choice and consent into that process.
Right.
I can understand that. Because, go ahead.
And I will say, I do think if your child is old enough to speak and is possibly a caregiver or a childminder and they say, I don't want them changing my diaper or nappy, I think they have that right.
Well, hold on. Is that any different than if they're with a caregiver and your child who can speak says, no, I don't want my nappy changed. Okay? your 1-year-old says no. The caregiver says, okay, I'm not going to change your nappy because you have indicated to me that that's not something that you want. So then when you get there to pick up your child at the end of the day, and this foul little monstrosity runs up to you, what are you going to think about that caregiver?
I'm going to be a little upset with the caregiver, because then I need them to then instruct the child, okay, if you don't want me to change your nappy, you have to now go sit on this potty. These are the options. I change it, you sit on the potty.
It's just such a, you know, on the surface it's comical because of course you're not going to ask the child who's a baby about, do I have consent to do this? Because as a parent, you're obligated, and I would say by law, you're obligated by law to care for this individual.
Right.
And for those who say you're not obligated by law, I will say don't do it and wait and see how long it takes Child Protective Services to come pick you up. So separately, we had a couple times where we didn't send our kids to school, took a day off work, and like, oh, this is when we had our first set, right? And they're young, and we're like, oh, we'll take a day off and we'll keep the little one here with us. It's like a first kid. And they didn't go to school. And around 9 and 10 a.m., we got a phone call from the school saying where are they at and how long is it going to take you to get them here. And that was when we realized who really ran the house and who had most of the control in the home. You have very little control, but you have a lot of responsibility in a lot of ways. As a parent, you have a tremendous amount of responsibility to care for these individuals. Fundamentally, teaching your child to grant consent and choice, they're not necessarily bad, but do we want to put that kind of pressure on babies? Initially, I say no.
Right, on babies, I say no as well. As they get older, as their verbal, their vocabulary builds, they should have more of an informed consent. But when you start telling me you don't want me to change your diaper, that means you need to start using a potty on a regular basis.
I agree with that. When the baby's old enough to start saying, I don't want my diaper changed, or they're running and hiding and doing things in the diaper, yes, things that they used to do, but now they know, they're starting to learn that that's bad or whatever, they're going to hide and they don't want that on them. That's when you start that potty training hard. Get them out of those diapers. Absolutely. Right. Older kids, they're past that point. No, people shouldn't be messing with them like that. Yeah. But for babies, it's just too much pressure on babies to grant consent. So guys, those are my thoughts. Blair, what are your thoughts about it? Anything else?
Nope.
Yeah, those are our thoughts about it. And leave us your comments. Let us know what you think about asking your baby's permission before changing their nappy. Take care.
Take care.